Yay, the Fox body Mustang is here! The Dominator FX. Well, welcome back to the channel. So today we've got two real-world builds on this car and a quick review, so we better get started with this Sydewinder. Now this is a really cool car. Started life as a 1981 Mustang Cobra, but then some guys took it and made Sydewinder. There's a long video down below. I recommend that you watch it if you're at all interested, or at least do what I did and skip through bits here and there. The car has, I think, around 600 horsepower. Everything's been changed. It's been stripped out with racing seats, a roll cage, racing brakes, suspension. The video finishes with it absolutely decimating some other cars at a track day. Really cool project. I especially enjoyed the way they painted the emblem on the bonnet and then the matte paint scheme carefully just scraped away to show bits of the original red car underneath. Very, very cool. So we need to see it now how it's built. Unfortunately, Sydewinder is a T-top and we don't have that in game, so we just have to go with the fixed roof here, but otherwise we'll get as close as we can. Performance, bulletproof tyres, armour's up to you. We have 4 different sorts of arches on the car. They can be bolted on plastic, or just faired extended arches. Really good selection. They help you build a lot of these builds. There's a lot of sort of real world, or realistic looking at least, bumpers, and I think this tuner bumper gets the closest to Sydewinder. You can have the bottom one, the race package, but it adds extra lights and is too big, I think, in the splitter department there, and that's absolutely massive. So in the end I went for the other one for a slightly more subtle look. We want a stock back bumper, but you see you can have wheelie bars or just slight, what they call sport variations to it. As far as the exhaust goes, we want the hot ring exhaust because we've got some exhaust out the back and some exhaust out the side, and Sydewinder exhausts from the side, so hot ring exhaust for that. Moving on down to the grille, we've got various grills. They're quite similar, the first set of grills, it's just that one has slightly thinner bits of plastic than the others. Sydewinder has a custom grill with 3 big slats, so I've gone with this letterbox grill because I just thought, well, that's custom, it's a bit closer with some horizontal parts. There's a nice variety of hoods. I went with the low cowl hood, which seems very close to the one on Sydewinder. There is a high one. There's also a few other options, including this turbo cover that's painted black at all times. This will become very relevant for our second build, if not now. Next one down are the headlights. Well, the car's from 1981, and I didn't notice if they did anything to the lights, so I'm going to say stock yellowy lights there. For the livery, well, firstly note that I've taken the Snake Eater livery, but there's quite a good selection here of liveries which I'll just run through as we go. The Snake Eater obviously replaces the emblem that was on a lot of Cobras. You then get various sets of stripes that you can use, and some of these again are going to be very good for later. Some will be very good if you build the pace car that we'll very briefly touch on later. So it's not actually a bad selection, although I feel that then these last few here, I don't know about those. I don't think I'll be using those. On to the mirrors. I've gone with the painted stock mirrors, but you know, you could almost have gone stock, it wouldn't make much difference. There's also lots of shapes and fender mirrors. I don't know if they were ever used, but the stock one is fine. Gone with a black plate, and I'm sure you can guess that the primary and the secondary paints are both matte black. Trim, again, I've gone black. We can't strip it out as much as Sydewinder was. Sydewinder has a half cage, which is the street roll cage here. There's no sun strip on there that I could see. For the skirts, basically no skirt to be honest on this car, but there is quite a nice selection. Not sure you can make them out in matte black, but some of these other skirts I have seen on other custom cars, so they're a good selection. And the same is true of the spoilers. We're going to use the ducktail because this bolt-on one, I want the bolts, but it's just too small. The ducktail one is about right. But if you look, nearly every one of these spoilers is a sensible option. They've obviously thought about you building a drag car because we had the chute, we got the drag spoiler. And I'm sure there probably was a Fox drag car, but I bet it had wheels about 200 times wider than these ones. Anyway, competition suspension is just about low enough for us, and of course the car will lower as you drive, so that looks good. For the wheels, first I wanted to show you these stock wheels, which are pretty much the spitting image of the stock wheels on some of these cars, so that's really nice to see if you're building a stock car. Otherwise, if you go into the track wheels and take modern mesh, that was about the closest I could get. I spent a long time trying to match these wheels. I couldn't fully match them, but that's what I went with, the modern mesh. And somewhere between black steel and stone silver is the right sort of colour. I went stone silver. In the end, there's no smoked windows. Don't forget those bulletproof tyres, of course, and that completes the build. This next car was built by Goolsby Customs for the Goodguys Rod and Custom Association. It was used as a promotional tool as much as anything else. It looks really cool. We can't have the window louvers on it, but I'm going to link down below an article that shows all the pictures in the construction of this car, including the pace car that it started with. Also linking to Wikipedia so you can read about the replica pace cars that were built on this, because I think they're another viable build for the car. Anyway, changes here. We're going to use these extended arches which replicate the welded in arches that we have on this car. For the bumpers, I think the one we used before, the tuner bumper, works, and it works better here in fact than it did on Sydewinder, so really great choice there. Rear bumpers again staying stock. In fact, it's really noticeable on this car how much higher the rear bumpers are than the sides or the front. There should be a single exhaust here in the position of the stock one, so we will take the stock exhaust. The grille, again I've taken the letterbox grille because again I wanted some horizontal slats and it's the nearest I felt would work. Now with the hood, this is quite important, we go turbo cover, so we get the black hood. We also get some little vents at the back, and I think from what I was seeing on Google this is what they fitted to the 2.3 turbo, but I'm not exactly sure on that. Anyway, this is going to be great because it's going to blank out the Snake Eater part of the Snake Eater livery when we get there and just leave us with the bits that we want on the side. As we move into the livery, something rather important, which is that the car as standard has one colour going right up to the window line, which is not much good for the twin colour builds. But if you select twin bottom stripes, you automatically get this bottom part of the car in black, which is exactly what we want. We also get the stripes in the right place. We also get that orange strip round the bottom where the Good Guys car is yellow. So overall, twin bottom stripes gets us extremely close. You could try this red Snake Eater to get the little bit of extra colouring here on the bonnet, but I don't think it's very good because it also puts black stripes on the trunk and on the roof, which you don't want. So stay with the twin bottom stripes, and I say a very good one for anything where you need a bottom dark colour on the car. Stock mirrors work absolutely fine on this build. For the respray, I've used a metallic race yellow. Race yellow is a touch bright, but when you see this car in the sun for real, it is a fairly bright yellow. It would need a crew colour in order to dull it down exactly to be the same as the real car. Now I would suggest a classic colour because any pearlescent you add to the yellow in fact shines through the black parts, so just go classic race yellow, especially if you're in the auto shop, which would save you some money. So that's primary and secondary, and the trim colour remains black. I've removed the roll cage. I don't think they've got one in there, I couldn't see it anywhere. Again with stock on the skirts, and I'm so pleased, this spoiler, the rolled lip spoiler, this is another one. I don't know if Rockstar saw this car, but this is a perfect spoiler for it. Competition suspension again, and the car looks about right in motion when it sinks even further down than when it's in the garage. There's no fully correct wheel, and there's quite a few almost there options. I've picked one of those, which is Speed Boy from the track class. Looks great in the middle, but round the outside we've got all these split rib nuts, and they're not there on the real one. Of course these wheels have been painted in black. Now when we move on to the windows, I've seen many photos of this car, and very often the windows appear tinted to some degree. It's very much a custom car, so I have put a light smoke there. on the glass. That completes the build of this car, and I think it's time now to actually subject the car to a proper test. Testing, I used the car around the city a fair bit to get a feel for it, then took it on the track that I often use, did 7 laps, and number 6 was the fastest. We're seeing that now. I really like the way the car drives. The front is always locked down, the rear can easily be made mobile, but it doesn't slide too easily, so you get a slightly oversteery to neutral car. Obviously it's fastest when you keep it neutral. Very pleasant experience, the brakes are good, it's really good over the bumps, and I would say overall it is pretty predictable as well, so really good fun to drive. The only downside is it's perhaps not as quick as I thought it was. I was getting 59-second laps as the fastest, and I think the X32 or the 300ZX, which is one of the slower cars when I did the full roundup up to that point of the bottom dollar cars, that was about a minute. So it's not that much faster than that, certainly quite a lot slower than the Bentley, etc. But it's a lovely driving car, which if you take it out on the street, it's really the same story. Neutral handling, tending towards oversteer unless you really push it or really lift on the way into a corner. Very pleasant. I haven't mentioned the noise yet, but it sounds decently meaty. So if you add the customization options that we've run through, which are good, to the way it looks and drives, I think it'll be no surprise that I say, if you have the money and the collection that needs this car, I do recommend this car. Now, of course I'm from Great Britain. To me, the Mustangs are the more rakish early or later cars, and all these other ones sit somewhere in the middle. But I know that everybody's been waiting for a Fox body Mustang, even though of course culturally I don't quite understand why. But it's here, and it is good, and I'm pleased with the builds. I would like to know from you guys, are there any other builds that are out there, real world builds, that you are doing on the car? Are you making the pace car, for example? Are you making a Cobra? Are you making a one-off custom vehicle like I've done here? I'd love to know that down below. And if you come up with something that I prefer to either of my two builds here, well, I'll build it and I'll pop it up on YouTube. For me personally, this completes my 10-car Mustang garage. I got rid of one of the Ellies a while ago. I've been waiting for this one. That garage is now complete, so at some point I shall film the entire garage for you, because I think all the cars in there, apart from this one at least, will be a surprise, so that's something to look forward to. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It went on a long time. If you got to the end, I thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate that. Remember, all the money from these videos goes to charity, to War Child. Take care, and thank you so much for watching.